project using my brand new Spellbinders Grand Caliber machine. I've got 2 pieces of coloured cardstock here, which are coordinations cardstock. I've got a piece of K&Co Company patterned paper. I've got a hunky dory card base, a piece of seam binding, which I've got in the same colourway, you know, again to match in, and then these 2 little pins, hat pins. These are what I made myself, simple to make, and I think I will do a video sometime showing you just a step-by-step on how to make these sorts of things, but it's very easy. But you can buy hat pins as well. And then we've got just some beautiful little pearls there as well. Okay, so our card is 5 3/4 inches across this way. So our card is 5 3/4 approximately this way, and then it is approximately 8 1/4 the other way. So we're going to cut. First layer is going to be our coordinations, the dark colour. Take that across there, and then the same on here. So it's going to be 7 3/4 and 5. And the reason that you needed to take 1/2 inch off the size of the card was because of the depth of the scallops. If you did your normal 1/4 inch down on that first layer, it didn't work because the scallops already put some depth on that. And then we took the paler peach colour and I cut that 1/4 inch smaller than this one, so that will sit on top like so, just creating a nice little border around the edge on here like so. Okay. And I'm not going to stick any of this down yet because we've got ribbon and things to put round, so we want to just be sure to cut everything out first. So then the next layer we need to cut out is our pattern paper, so we're going to take that 1/4 inch down again from our peach layer. Okay, so that means this final layer ends up at 5 inches by 7 1/2. So then we've got our 3 layers. So these 2 layers we can stick together because it's that the ribbon's going round, and I can also stick this layer down to the card. So you can just see that has got the lovely edging, and then of course that will come on top once we get all the other pieces cut. I'm going to be using several sets, so let me just run through the ones that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be first of all using this one that's called Asian Accents, and that's for my border, I think, here. Then I'm going to be using the Asian Motifs, and then Labels 28, and finally Venetian Motifs. Okay, so here's our Spellbinder machine, and it's got this little lever here which basically operates the suction pad on the bottom here. So what you need to do is make sure the handle's in the right position for you for working, pop it down on the table, and then just move that lever so that it sucks the machine to the table and you literally can't lift it off. The thing we've got is our plate. So I've got my raspberry plate here, which is used for as a spacer plate when you're doing embossing, so we won't be needing that today, so I'll keep that to one side. Then I've got my set of other plates, which, as you can see, I literally meant it when I said I haven't even opened them. So we're just going to open these up, and we've got various plates that are designed for different jobs. So we have got, and what's the beauty of these, I think, is they're all marked. So we've got our base plate, and these are all big sizes. These are all A4 sort of size. Well, it says 8.5 by 12. An embossing plate, which again, obviously I won't need. And you've got your tan mat, which again, I won't be needing today. So we'll put those all to one side. And then I've got my cutting plate. Okay, so I think those are the 2 that I'm going to need today. However, if I'm not sure, it does give instructions on each of the dies, and in the little booklet that comes with it, exactly what you need to do for what. For a cutting sandwich, the first thing we need, and I suspect it's for most of the sandwiches because it's the base plate, and that's the sandwich is what we call the plates, the combination of the plates in with the dies or the embossing folders, because it is like a sandwich. You're sandwiching your embossing folder or your dies in between 2 of these plates. Okay, so the first thing we need for cutting is our A plate. We then need to put our dies on the plate with the ridgy side up. Okay, so the cutting side up. Now, don't worry, they shouldn't cut your finger. They're not like razor sharp or anything like that, so they shouldn't hurt you. Now we're going to need 2 of our border, but obviously I can only cut 1 at a time for that one. And because it's such a big plate, we can get quite a few things on all in one go. Now, the only thing that I want in a different colour is my Labels 28 die, which I want to do in the darker red. What I'm trying to do as well is leave enough on this piece of card that I've got here so that I am able to cut another border out from. Okay, then we put our card on top, and we're going to finish our sandwich by putting our white plate, which is our cutting plate C, and we pop that on top. Now, a lot of people use a bit of sticky tape to hold their dies in place. I'm going to be brave and see if it needs it or not. And there is a little thing the other end to pull out if you want to. I'm not sure I'm bothered, but let's see. So then you just kind of feed it through the hole and wind the handle and hope the best. And don't worry about any cracking noises, that is normal, believe it or not. And make sure you wind all the way through if you've got cutting dies right up to the edge, because you want to make sure that pressure goes all the way through. And now it's the moment of truth. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I'm just going to pull it up because what I don't want is these to come off, because I'm going to try and put through the embossing folder, so the embossing plate, which will then just add a bit of extra element to these, because each of these Spellbinders dies also has that facility. And a tip that I had was, that I've seen a lot of people say, is with your new dies is to put a piece of greaseproof paper through. So put greaseproof paper through on the die and then put your card, because that will help you remove them from the die. We're going to leave it as it is here. We're just going to then take our tan mat, pop that on top. Whoa! Without knocking everything over, hopefully. Like so. Then put our pink embossing plate on, so not the raspberry plate but the pink one that says B embossing plate. So pop that on top of there, just run that through the machine and see what we get out when we do that. And just to say, by the way, don't worry that as soon as you cut you will get these marks and dirty marks from the card almost embedded into your white cutting plate. That's normal and usual, and you'll also start to find that after a while it completely curves. To make that, I mean, it's not a problem, but to make that kind of last longer, alternate how you put it through. Don't always put it through with the writing up. Do one time with the writing up, one with it down, and then that will mean that your cutting side, you know, you get both equal bits kind of cut into, and also the bend will kind of, hopefully for a little bit, kind of even itself out. Okay, whoops. Okay, well that piece came out as I pulled that up, so you can kind of see, look how we've got the embossing element on there. I think that looks really cool. So we're just going to take these other pieces out, and then I need to recut the border, the second border, and I need to cut my other label. Okay, so here's all our pieces cut out, embossed. I think you can see, I mean, the delicacy. The hardest one to get out was this one, because it really is very delicate, and I actually messed it up the first time and I recut it, and actually the second time putting it out was easier than the first time. It really is a case of just doing it little by little, and there are holes on the back of the die, which sometimes if you just push through gently, they're actually on the bit where you're not trying to push out spare pieces, but the actual element itself. And if you go very delicately with your pokey tool, you won't go through the card, but you'll just give it a nudge out and just gradually work your way through. And like the second time I did this die here, it popped out as easy as winks. So I think it does get easier as you use the dies more frequently. Anyway, I think I'm really pleased with how those have come out, and the embossing comes out really nice. I did discover that there's a right way up for your card. So basically it's face down. It doesn't really matter unless you're going to do the embossing, which obviously I was, and ideally I probably would have had it that side. I thought the more kind of, because it's got like the textured side, this side, but however I did it face up, which made it the wrong side down. But actually now it's done, I'm really pleased with the mistake, inverted commas, because the embossing has shown up really, really well. If we look at this one, for example, where you can see the embossing on both sides, there, that's on the smooth side, and then on the rough side it actually is much clearer on the smooth side, so I'm quite pleased with kind of my mistake. Okay, so now we've got all our pieces cut, hopefully we need to start putting it together. So let's pop these to one side for a minute and bring our card up. So the first piece we need is the layer that we haven't yet stuck on our card base, and we're going to put our borders on. Now in order to get that in the right position, we need to just place our matte our label in position. I'm not necessarily going to stick this down at that point, I'm just going to use it. Now the other thing I would say is make sure that you do line, with a border like this, it's so distinctive, line it up correctly so that each piece kind of works. Okay, so we're going to stick that down. Okay, so that's those two stuck down, and we've lined it up, and as I say, you don't need to worry too much about the middle being even. So now we're just going to cut excess. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put this behind my label, because what I want is that look, like so. Actually that's upside down, my label, like that. So in order for that to work, clearly I need to cut this in half. So I'm just going to take my scissors, because again it's not going to show at the back there. I'm just going to take that, cut it in half, and pop that onto my label here. And I'm going to use just some glue right now, and making sure it's the right way up, and just pop a bit of glue on each, and then gently popping these little pieces over the top of our label, just stick that down like so. So we've hooked those two over, and then exactly the same for the other bit. So that's our next piece done, and that is then to go on here like so. Stick this down. Now you could do this 3D, I'm going to do this all flat I think, and then again just using our scrap paper and our Zig pen if you want to. I do, I like to stick these little pieces down. Don't do the top one, because that's not going to be available to stick yet, because we haven't, it's going to pop up above the above our layer, because we haven't stuck our layer down yet. So, and then just pop that in position. If you see what I mean, look, the top and the bottom sort of just hangs over, so there we go. Whoops. And I'm just going to get my little zig, and I'm going to take that little piece that's hanging over, put a bit of glue on it, stick him down, and do the same on all of them, because I think it will look better. So that's that bit done. So this one is going to go on an angle on this one, but before we pop that on there, we're going to stamp onto this our sentiment. This stamp's from paper tray ink, and I'm going to use this one here, I think, that says Happy Anniversary. I just remembered in time that we're doing this on the angle. Okay. Okay, so there's our stamp sentiment. So I'm just going to use my glue pen for this and just pop that. So that one's going straight like that, and then this one is going at its angle. So I'm just going to gently pop it in place like so. So that, again, it just makes an ordinary label look completely different. And then that is just going to pop in place on there. So again, I'm just going to use my glue pen and also zig just for these little flourishes here, just to make sure that they stick nicely. I know a lot of you wouldn't bother doing that, it's just my pet peeve. I can't stand things when they just poke up and they get caught, it drives me mad. Okay, so then we'll pop this lightly in position and get it straight. Looks good. There we go. And now what we need to do is just wrap our seam binding around and make a really fabulous kind of bow. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a piece of my glue runner down the back here just to help. And we want the bow near the bottom. So we place that in position and then we can line this up around the back on our tape, and that will help us just hold it. And then we can do a simple knot at the bottom and then we can add our bow on afterwards, because I think that would be simpler. Okay, so don't worry about those ends for the moment. And then we're going to make, using my bow maker, a couple of fluffy. So I've got my little bow maker here, and hopefully by doing that we'll get a few. And you just wrap it around, and then I'm going to find the one end and I'm going to take that across and over. And try and make this sort of big kind of fluffy bow. Pulling it, I say fluffy, but kind of just loose and kind of not a lot, you know, just lots of kind of bits to it. So we just got this. Hopefully that will work. We will pop just in position there. We'll shorten that piece. Whoops. Oops. Come back. And then we'll get a glue dot and stick that down. So the first one I want is a nice big fat pearl on this little chap here, just to, whoops, finish that all off. I'm wriggling around all over the place. Come back. I want you there. That's it. There we go. Like so. And then I want one each end here. I think we'll go for the slightly smaller ones on that, because they're
okay, so now as you can see we've stuck the bow down, and I decided to do that with actually my glue gel.
More delicate area, so we're
little
going
element
to
and
go
I
for the
put
size
into
down and
the two little hat pins. I think that looks
just
really pretty.
Here. And another one at the top here, like so. And then we want some pearls in each of the corners. Ooh, come on, go up a bit. There what I'm trying to do is put little pearls just in these pieces here. So I'm just going for the wee ones here and just going in these little holes because I think that will just look a nice finishing touch. So it's just 6. There we go. Then last but not least, we obviously need to attach this bit to this bit. Now I've just got some foam tape, but I think in view of the gel glue that I've put on the other side, I am actually just going to use gel glue because I thought it'd be nice to have a bit of just a little dimension. Pop that in position so that you've got your little red border all the way around the edge. And then that piece is a bit long, so I'm just going to chop that off. And he wants to stick in the air. There we go. That's my first ever use of the Spellbinders machine, and actually I have used Spellbinder dies a couple of times, but not very many in my Cuttlebug. But that's my first time that I've really done a lot of work with the Spellbinders. So I hope you've enjoyed making this with me, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!